Morning. How you doing, WV? Yeah, doing all right. Got a decent few hours sleep, so I'm all right. How about you? You were on pretty late last night as well, weren't you? WV? Sorry, I've forgotten your first name. You did send me that email, but I've forgotten. Old Hollywood Briar, good morning to you. Well, this is where live. Jeff, right? Sorry. It's this. I interact with a lot of people, and it's just impossible to remember. I suppose the more I interact with particular people, I remember the names a bit more. So forgive me. All right, so there we go. This is the pipe as we stand. It's the shape is quite interesting. The shape is quite interesting because the bit here, which I'm trying to sort of emulate, you've got here, it's obviously a Rhodesian shape, so it goes, there's like a tapered bit at the top there, and then it goes round, and I think I've got that pretty good. Mine's maybe a little bit deeper. So you've got the shape, the basic shape is basically there, but this bit here is interesting because it sort of goes back to the shank. It doesn't go tapered bit and then back in like this one does, so it makes it easier really, but it just, you've got to get it right, otherwise it doesn't look quite right. Carlos Spicy Wiener, or is that Wiener? I'm gonna assume it's Wiener, seeing as the E's before the I. So that's what we're going for anyway. Obviously I've got to bend the stem, and I think overall the shape's pretty good. So I've got my rustication tool, which I made a good while back. I made this out of a piece of briar. Turned it, hi Josh. I turned it, drilled it. I got a bunch of nails. I sharpened or ground them down on a grinder to sharpen them. And it works very well. And they're glued in with epoxy. Sort of tied together with a cable tie to hold them all in place, and that's it. It's fairly rudimentary, as the word would be, I guess. So there's the shape, the sort of basic outline of the 673, which I think is pretty good, and we're going to start rusticating. The Savinellis don't tend to be C-Rock, they tend to be more of a golf ball kind of rustication. I used to use the golf ball rustication quite a lot. I use it occasionally now, but I think people prefer the C-Rock, and so it gives it a bit more of a rustic feel. And as I didn't want it to be precise, literally to the nth degree. It's got to be an interpretation, and that's what it's going to be. So I've just got to be careful at the line over here, because the line is quite a soft line. Something which I've noticed on a lot of the 673s is this, where it tapers in, it's not a sharp line like you get on some Rhodesians. So I don't want to lose that definition, but at the same time I don't want it to be too sharp. So when I rusticate it, I've got to be a little bit careful. And it probably would be better if I had it in a vise, which I do have here, but I've tried. I made one of these sort of things to put into the vise so that I can wedge that in, but I've yet to get the tapering right. Actually, that's not too bad. I've got a big vise, but it's screwed into the table, so you won't be able to see it. Hi Robert, how you doing? I'm not sure if this is going to work, we'll see. Morning, Suffolk. To be honest, it's too much faff. I find it easier and I've got more control if it's in the palm of my hand. It does sort of make your hands ache a bit after a while, but can't be helped. You gotta do what you gotta do. I might just leave the shank smooth. Maybe, we'll see, because it looks quite nice. I mean, it does have some nice grain on it, but it wasn't good enough to be smooth. I mean, it could have been made smooth with a contrast stain, and I've done too much of the contrast stain recently, and I wanted to do this rusticated, to be honest. The rustication is not difficult to do. It's about getting the right balance, you know, how deep you go and trying to keep it even across the pipe. But it's not really that difficult. It's more physical exertion than anything else. Because it's a dense wood, you really do have to force the tool into the wood whilst turning, and you do really work up a sweat when you do it. In fact, I'll turn my heater off, I think. What time have you got there, Josh? 8 in the morning for you? A bit early, given the time you were up till last night. Oh, actually, it wasn't that late, was it? I'm thinking my time in terms of what time, because I went to bed about 3:30. By the time I'd finished my cigar. But for you guys, I guess it was just about 11 o'clock or 10, 11 o'clock. 5 AM in Hollywood. Are you up early or bed late? When you do this, you do have to keep sort of reminding yourself, go deep. The deeper, obviously you've got to be careful with the thickness of the bowl, but other than that, it really has a much better effect when you go nice and deep. So that's really looking pretty good. You're not sure. I'm not sure about this rim here, whether to leave that smooth or not. I'm tentatively, I mean, I haven't sanded it perfect so that it's a perfect shape, because I was expecting to rusticate it, but I can correct that. So I'm kind of tentatively going around that rim gingerly so as not to ruin it. Might leave that whole thing smooth. I've got one little sand pit on the top there, which kind of makes it requiring a rustication, so I might just do this bit around here smooth, and then in here rusticated. Morning curmudgeon. YTPC. How you doing? Tacos rule. Yeah, I hear that, Josh. I've kind of gotten into a bit of a, probably not the healthiest of routines when it comes to weekends. As you guys know, I'm up till late, so I get up a bit later. Then I tend to head to the garage, do a bit of work on the pipes. Then the kids get in, usually they have like a Sunday school, they get in around 1 o'clock. They have lunch, and my wife kind of leaves me alone until it gets to the point where, right, time to go out. And it's like an unspoken rule that Sunday have to go out no matter what. It's like, if we don't go out, we're going to turn into pumpkins. Every so often I'll have a reprieve and we won't go out on a Sunday, but it's not that often. But I'm hoping today will be one of those. We'll see when I get a knock on the door. I've put the blind down and locked the door so that nobody can waltz in whilst we're live. But no doubt, actually I better put the phone into aeroplane mode. Hang on a sec. Sorry. There we go. Right, so you've got some basic rustication. I've still got to go over certain areas, but you've got the basic rustication of the bowl. Hi David, I did show that before, but I'll show it to you again in a minute. So that's the basic rustication, and I'm looking at it here and I'm thinking maybe to leave this smooth and bring all of that round and leave it all smooth. What do you reckon? I think the briar's quite good. I mean, it's not perfect, but with the contrast staining, that would look quite good. Give it a dark stain to the rusticated area, and then a contrast sort of dark and golden stain over the rest of it. I think that might look quite nice. Above the stem on the bulb, but leave the rest smooth. It is a Rhodesian Suffolk. The 673 KS is a Rhodesian. As I've said, this is quite a soft. That where it tapers in on the top there is quite the actual change of direction over there is quite a soft turn. There's no hard lines like you get on some Rhodesians. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier in terms of when you're rusticating, because the rustication itself softens the lines anyway, because there's no definition once you rusticate. So okay, I've got here this little tool which I made. It's basically a regular sort of bit holder like that, and all I've done is I've ground down that one with a wide 2 teeth with a wide gap, and that one with 4 teeth with narrower gaps, and it's actually really sharp, but it does make it easier to get into difficult places like that. It's actually sharper than my rustication tool, quite a bit. Tell you, this thing takes chunks out of the briar very easily. All the best, Curmudgeon. Cheers, David. Alright, now back to this rustication tool. This is a block of briar. Drilled a hole, filled it with composite glue, took a bunch of nails, I ground them down to make them sharper. There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 nails in there, and you can do different spacings and different amount of nails to give you sort of less dense or more dense rustication effects. There are some sirens in the background here, yes. And then just glued them in, held them in place with the cable tie, and then that's it. And I've shaped it to make it as comfortable as possible in my palm. It's still quite painful, it still gets quite sore. It needs a lot of elbow grease to get the rustication to go well. And that's it, that's the rustication tool. Okay, so I think I'm going to rusticate just this top bit as well. What do we think? Rusticate it or not? little sandpit there. I should leave that smooth, yeah? Los Santiville 1865, welcome, how are you doing? Hi Alex, morning. Yeah, so that's basically what I was going to do, was to rusticate just the rim and then leave this bit smooth and leave the shank smooth as well. I think that would probably work best, and it'll actually provide a nice contrast as well, which will match in with the rustication on the bowl. Just got to see that it's kind of equal the line a little bit more. Okay, this bit I've got to be careful with, because you can quite easily take chunks out of the rim. See, I could do the golf ball rustication with the Dremel, but it just won't match. So I'm just going to do this slowly and carefully. Yeah, you see that? It can just quite easily take chunks out. Hi Mike, morning. It's not the taping is not the problem. I would tape this area if I needed to, but it's actually during the rustication over there when you've got thin bits, because it's such a dense and brittle wood. When you're twisting and turning, you can just literally gouge out a chunk. Whilst that's not critical sometimes on the bowl, it is critical on the rim. If I get a divot in the rim, it's just not going to look very nice. And I have had that. I've had that more than once on pipes. So I'm just have to do it really quite weak, with very little force, and just kind of scratch the surface and just keep going over it, so I get a good definition to the rustication. But I've found sometimes that even not much force can still take a chunk out quite easily. So I'm actually going to leave that rustication quite light on the top, and then once it's stained, it should be okay. It should blend in quite nicely. Yeah, it's worked out pretty well so far, Mike. I'm really happy with it so far. Let's just hope that I don't do anything stupid. The drilling thankfully worked out really well. Oops. Doesn't have the same kind of definition as this. That's really worked out very nicely, the rustication there. I've got to put a brush over it still, just to sort of, I mean, I could leave it as it is. I did that on my lump of coal, and it really is actually very nice having that textured feel, you know, almost sharp, but not sharp, but you can really feel the definition. When you go over with a wire brush, it smooths everything out, and it gives it that sort of traditional sea rock look where it's kind of smooth but gouged in. But I quite like leaving it quite rough and textured. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Mike. I don't know, I quite like it when it's really well defined like this without having the wire brush over it. What I usually do is I put the wire brush on the lathe, and that it works very, very well. I could do it by hand with I've got a wire brush, a hand brush. Maybe that will be a good happy medium, but we'll see. Morning, Paul. How you doing? Cheers, Alex. All the best. Yeah, that does work, Mike. It does do that, but I find that it kind of loses it a bit if you're staining it. When you're doing it on natural, a naked, unstained, untreated bowl, then that waxy look is really nice, and it kind of protects it a little bit from getting that dirty look. When you get virgin, unstained bowls, when they're rusticated, because of the rustication, because of the texture, it catches on everything, on your skin, on your clothes and everything, and it can take on, it's already getting grey in certain areas here, and it can take on a bit of a dirty look. But when you do that wire brushing, smoothing it a bit, or even on a buffing wheel, on a high speed hard buffing wheel, that will also smooth it out. I personally don't like that. I get why people do it, but I personally don't like it. I like this textured feel, and that's why really and truly staining it is the best option. Good for you, Paul. Sounds like you got your Sunday sorted. Right, we're almost there. See, the thing is, when you're rusticating the rim, when you turn the nails, so which sometimes the nails are not 100%. You see that one there is a fraction higher than the rest. So what happens is that nail takes the lead, and when you gouge, when you force through, that will make a scratch in the briar, a deep gouge in the briar. When you lift, reposition, and go again, so you get almost like a scrape going across that gouge that was already there, that's when you have the danger of pulling out a chunk. So you just have to be careful when you're doing it. It's not wealth of knowledge there, David. It's really just experience when you do something yourself. You know, the amount of times, I said this when I first started using a lathe, I was always intimidated, and I kind of never pulled the trigger on buying a lathe because I just was intimidated by the whole concept. Once I had it on, once I bought it, took the plunge, it's just a matter of doing it. Once you do it yourself, you just, you know, you gain confidence with every sort of time you do it. I'm really liking the look of that. It kind of radiates into the middle there, the way the rustication has worked out, and it's really given it a nice texture on the edge. That looks wonderful. Very, very happy with that. I'm not just saying it, it really has worked out very, very well. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, no, for sure, 100%. I actually, where is it? I actually got your wheel going today, but that's going to be another learning curve for me. I actually did a bit of shaping with the wheel. Morning, Sea Smokes. There it is. It was a struggle getting it in, but I used some mounting glue and just figuring out that I had to leave it a bit till it got tacky. My fingers, don't ask. But that's the wheel, and you can see I've used it a bit. But the main advantage for me is this cutting edge here, and but it's really, really very ferocious. And this is I didn't do the finest grit because I wanted to get the main shaping with it, and then I'll do the finer grit. I can do either by hand or whatever. But where am I? Yeah, so this, I mean, it all looks fantastic now. It's fine. But when I was first beginning this shape in this junction here, I used that to try and do it, and it goes straight through it like butter. So I have to learn how to sort of use it gingerly. Yeah, worked very well. Yeah, I do need to get the mounts, you know, slowly. I've got somebody else, one of my other subscribers, who's kind of looking at motors, who's got a friend who actually deals in the stuff here in the UK, I think. So we'll see how we go. It is 9mm, Josh, yeah. Gentle touch, yeah, exactly. And the drill on it is spot on. It's not always easy on a bent pipe on this side and on that side to get it right. And I'm starting to learn how to do it. There it is. So usually what happens is when you're shaping it, you're shaping the shank straight on the lathe, and then you have to, because it's bent, so the where are we? So in order to get a nice round area here to go with the stem, you have to have that horizontal like that, and then when you drill the draft hole, you have to tilt it up so that you get a straight line to the bowl. I also want it to have enough meat underneath the draft so that it doesn't burn out. So I've tilted it, compensated a little bit more, positioned it also that I've got a decent amount there. And getting that right and meeting the bottom of the hole, not coming too high, too low, I'm learning, and it's you know it's worked out very well. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right where it's supposed to be. Anyway, a used furnace motor, washing machine motor. I'll be honest with you, although I'm reasonably good with my hands from a creative point of view, when it comes to machinery, I'm not great. You know, although I've done a fair bit of wiring around my house, and I wired up this garage, but even so, when it comes to motors and that kind of thing, I suppose like everything, like I was saying before, it's a matter of just getting your hands dirty and doing it. So I will probably have to just do that. Andrew Sirigliano has sent me a fantastic email which I haven't absorbed yet, with lots of ideas how to rig up a motor and to get moving on that. But that's all, you know, with time. What does it weigh? I don't have scales here. I'm going to estimate at the moment it's somewhere around 45 to 55, something like that. I'm not that precise by hand, but I would say it's something like that. Maybe 50, somewhere between, yeah, probably 55, 50, something like that, I would estimate. It's a good weight. And once the stem's been bent, it'll be fine. It'll have a good center of gravity. But I'll have to, when I get it upstairs, I'll weigh it properly. Certainly, Josh, that's for sure. You'd be surprised, you know, by the time you finish rustication and sanding, you know, it can take 5 grams off. And 5 grams, when it's sitting on your chin joint, on your jaw joint all afternoon, can make a difference. Yeah, I mean, I suppose I could do a few. The question is whether it will somehow dilute the uniqueness of it. I don't know. What do you think? Auction them separately or as a pair? As a twin set? It wouldn't be a twin set, it's not from the same briar, but... What was the make of the Sandblast Straight Classic Billiard? That was probably my Parker billiard. It's got the one which has got a nice ring grain on it. Sometimes, yeah, it's true. Sometimes, you know, the nicest pipes come out after, you know, your original plan has gone wrong. But this one, thankfully, so far, has pretty much gone to plan. Hopefully, it will stay that way. Some nice grain coming through. I think that stained black, the rusticated area is stained black, and then contrast stain on the rest. I think it will look awesome. Okay, so I had a look at that. You know, when I first bought that Parker, I snapped it up. It was in the basket. You know, it's a basket pipe, believe it or not. I snapped it up at JJ Fox's, and I had it converted to 9mm once I went over. I bought it way before I was smoking 9mm. But I had it converted by, I think Ian Walker did it. And I was actually looking at it the other day, and I was trying to work out why it was a Parker. What made it a seconds. And you know, you look at it a different eye when you make pipes. I've looked at it in the past and could find nothing wrong with it. I literally could find nothing wrong with it. But I looked at it again. It was either last night when I was cleaning. I think it was actually last night when I was cleaning my pipes. The drill is off. I never noticed it before. The drill is off center by quite a way, not miles away. I mean, it smokes very well. I don't have issues with it, but I think that obviously must be the reason. Hi Frank, morning. I've considered it all the time, Paul, but I've bought a selection of Delrin tenons to trial, to see which size I like to work with. It's just a matter of me knuckling down, because when I do it, the way I do it now with a 9mm, I have no, I can do it in my sleep, and that's the way I would want it to be. When I move over to doing non-filtered ones, I've got to find the right tenons, the right drill bit, so that everything works without any stress. That's how it works with these at the moment. So, which means that I've got to just invest a bit of time in doing that, and it's just a matter of doing that, I guess, which will happen in due course. Whew. The stem is just a nanometer slightly proud of the shank, which is what I'm trying to file down, sand down. I could do it on the wheel, but I think I might lose some of the shape. So I'm just going to have to elbow grease, and I could go with a higher grit, but I don't want to do that either, because it's going to mean going through the grits again, which I'm too lazy. And just doing it slowly but surely, I think, is a better way of doing it anyway. Yeah, well, to be honest with you, my right arm muscles, they're pretty hefty anyway from lugging around equipment, professional camera equipment with a heavy lens, heavy flash. It's very heavy by the time you finish. Yeah, go for it, Sea Smokes. Right, we're getting there. One of the things which I try now more than I used to is to ensure that stays as round as possible. A lot of times it doesn't end up that way, especially if it's a contoured shaped shank and stem, and as long as it lines up when you put the stem in, it's not the end of the world. But from a perfectionist professional point of view, obviously I want the pipes to be symmetrical as much as possible. So that's what I'm checking for all the time. A 200 and a 400. A 2 to 400, right. So the lenses that I use, to go off on a bit of a tangent, I use Canon equipment. So I basically use two lenses. I have other lenses which I use occasionally, but the two lenses which are my workhorses are the 24 to 105 f4L and the 70 to 200 L. Just a second. Yeah, so 70 to 200, 2.8, and a 24 to 105 f4. And if I had the money, I'd probably get a 24 to 70 2.8 Mark. I think there's a Mark 2 or 3 already now, but I don't really have the spare money for that. If they would bring out a 24 to 105 2.8, I would strive to buy that, even if it was like really expensive, which it would be, because it would be, in order to keep the size down for that, they'd have to spend a lot of money on the glass. Yeah, so at 50 prime I've got the 1.8 version, which I think I have to get serviced, because I get error messages sometimes with that, because I hardly ever use it, and I find that a lot of times with my lenses, if they don't get used, even if they're in their bags and protected, they sometimes give me error messages if they're not used regularly. I've actually got two 24 to 105s. Occasionally I do get issues with them. I've ended up having to turn off the image stabilization because that vibrates too much when I'm working. But the way I work, I don't really need the image stabilization anyway, so it's not a big issue for me. Sorry Josh, I know it's not pipe stuff, but you know, it's a live chat about anything really. Two of them are in pieces. Well, that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't venture to take them apart myself, unless it comes apart. My main worry at the moment is my camera. My camera's starting to fall apart. It's been used and abused for about 3 or 4 years, virtually since they came out. It's the 5D Mark III. So I think my next move is going to be, for instance, I use the PC socket on the side all the time because I have radio triggers attached for my off-camera lighting, and it became loose and it wasn't working, and I ended up having to super glue it back into the chassis of the camera. And that's pretty bad news. It's like it reminds me of having a sellotape on your glasses, holding the arm of your glasses on. I should have taken it into Canon to have it done, but I think at the time I had a wedding and I had no time. And you can wait 10 days to get your camera back. And I've got a backup camera, but it's the Mark II, so I'd obviously prefer to use the Mark III if I can. So I just super glued it, and it works fine ever since. It's worked better than it ever has. But I've got other issues. The little nipple thing, the toggle on the back next to the main wheel, that just tore off, so I've got no access to that. So I can't change I might be able to do it with the wheel, I'm not sure, I haven't even tried. I've got to change the focus point, I can't do that at the moment. So it has to go in at some point. Next time I get a couple of empty weeks in my diary, I'll have to take it in. I'll probably take it all in to get it serviced. That part is connected to the motherboard, it is, yeah. Truth of the matter is, I find all of this stuff, even though it's officially supposed to be at a professional level, it's not. Maybe the ones are better. I've never really owned a 1D, but you know, I find that the hot shoes get loose quite quickly. I've had to super glue some of that. I don't find that they're made as well as they should be. Obviously they want to try and sell more to you, I get that, but even so. Yeah, I am on CPS. I actually spoke to them the other day because I haven't used it for so long. They keep updating it and changing, what levels they are. So they by default they put you down to the lowest level until you re-register and re-update your equipment. I'm not sure what level I'd be at. Obviously they want you to buy the ones, which I'm not in the business for. But anyway, we're doing quite well here with the pipe. It's looking good. This actually would probably take a nice sandblast as well. Come on, Jordan. To auction the pipe, well, we talked about it on the live the other day. My preference would be simply to do it on YouTube live, and if people want to do bids which they don't want other people to see, they can do it by email, and I will sort of have that next to me, live all the time. I've done auctions before and I'm quite comfortable doing auctions. eBay is a good suggestion, but I think it will take out the whole personality of the whole event out of it if we do it on eBay. It might attract more money, could be, but I think it's about striking a balance between having an experience for all the people who want to give a tribute or take part in something connected for what us will be some kind of memorial sort of pipe kind of thing for matches. So I think it's nice for people to be able to. A raffle's quite a good idea as well. A raffle's a good idea. I don't know if I'll do $1. I think $1 is going to take a long time to make decent money for their charity. I'd probably be looking at something like $10, something like that, or $5, something like that. I don't know. I'm not at that stage yet, but $1, just it would, even to get to $1,000, you need 1,000 people to pay $1. So some people will pay 10 and 20, but people will buy 20 tickets. So it's going to be a lot of work if I'm going to have to sort out 1,000 raffle numbers. So it makes more sense if somebody's prepared to pay $20, rather buy 2 tickets for $10 each, and I only have to make 2 tickets. I understand that the chances in giving more chances of 20 chances, but you're also going to be giving proportionally, the number's going to be that much greater, so it's going to get diluted, and percentage wise it's going to be quite similar, I think. Yeah, it would be more work. The only thing is with a raffle is that people can take part when it suits them. They can just decide how much they want to spend, send that in, and they've got their raffle tickets, and if they're at the live auction or not, they can win. So that's certainly an advantage for people. Trying to get a feel for this grain to see if it's worth making it smooth. Yeah, I think there's some nice bird's eye here. It's not like actually it's pretty good, come to think of it. I might have to go down to a lower grit though. Yeah, Jordan, that sounds like a good idea. It really depends on how it works out with lots of carvers out there. If other carvers take part, then conceptually I just have to decide whether that's something which makes sense and if it is, then the more the merrier. I have to see what the response is like from people like yourselves and other carvers out there. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of carvers out there who had quite close interactions with John, so I think it would be nice for them to be able to take part. I don't know whether they would want to take part as part of this project. They might want to do it off on their own bat, and that's fine. I think it would be nice if it could all be kind of joined up, but we'll see what happens. So during the course of this week, I'll be writing to lots of different carvers, and we'll see what happens. At the same time, you know, I don't want it to be like 10 pipes. I'm sure we won't get that many, but if there's 10 pipes, it ends up being just a long auction which could take a couple of hours, and people who win a pipe will just maybe not feel that that they've got something unique. So I've got to think about that as well. But ultimately, the purpose is to you know, have something which memorializes John, gets a little bit of money to a charity, and yeah. Yeah, for sure. 100% Jordan. I think you're on my list anyway. I've got a list of about 20 different carvers. Yeah, for sure. Sea Smokes is going to do one as well. He said he's going to start one tomorrow. He didn't say that it was for the auction, but he just said he was going to go for it, try and make the shape. Cheers, Paul. All the best. Hey, Sean. How you doing? Right, I'm going up to 600. Bit of cold coffee. Oh, don't love cold coffee. 2 o'clock. My wife has let me be. She must be busy. Either that or she's gone shopping, right? $7:58 a.m. Well, you're up early for a Sunday morning. $6 a.m. Mike. Flipping Nora. When do you ever sleep? You're as bad as me. $2 a.m. 12 hours ago. Absolutely. Well, I must be honest with you, if I had the notifications on for all the people that I'm subscribed to, I would never sleep. Yeah, I never actually thought of that sea smokes. It's quite elementary, but I've never actually thought of just having a few on. I just by default I have them off. But I should put the guys who do lives anyway. I should have those on notification, really, I guess. But most of the people who go live have a fairly standard time. Besides for me being an inconsiderate old geezer. This is feeling good. How old? It's rather personal, dearie. 50. Big 5-0. You certainly can. This is where we're up to. Still got to bend the stem. I love that rim. It really looks good. Still a baby. When you want to wish anybody a good wish, somebody that's younger than you, is that I hope you don't catch me up for a long, long time yet. Well, that's a good wish for yourself, really. But if you want to wish somebody older a good wish, you can say, I hope I don't catch you up for a long, long time. Yeah, Hollywood, I'm really happy with it. It's turned out very well. I think my caution with it has paid off. I don't know where I'm getting it from, but I've got this smell of fresh tobacco, and it's kind of making me want to smoke. I know what it is. Recognize this mic? I'm still waiting to do this video. I was going to do it this morning, but I've been just in the zone making this pipe. My nose and my eyes tell me another Dunhill blend, possibly something Elizabethan-esque, or possibly even what's the other one? The boat. What am I thinking? Boat. What's the other Dunhill blend? The Virginia blend. My brain's not working. A light honey colour stain. I was going to go black actually. You think I should go light colour? I was going to do black and then do contrast staining on the smooth areas. Good for you, Royal Yacht. Yeah, that's the one. That's what I've been. I mean, not based on the smoke. It's just based on the sight and smell. I'm thinking Elizabethan or Royal Yacht. It does have quite an earthy, mulchy kind of aroma, which is kind of turning me away from Elizabethan, more to Royal Yacht, but it's got another kind of essencey kind of aroma to it as well. Anyway, I'll do all that by the video. No way you'd send Royal Yacht. Yeah, this is pretty much same colour as well. It's kind of why I thought Royal Yacht, the way it looks, the look and the smell, but as I say, I haven't tasted. I haven't actually had Royal Yacht in ages. I've got an open jar of it, which has been sitting in my cupboard for a good few years, so it might not be a good reflection on the reality. You wouldn't have that enter your house, right? Okay, well, there we are, people. I'm gonna do some buffing to get this buffed out. Elizabethan does have Perique, sure, it's a vapor. Yeah, I mean, this has got something. I haven't yet analysed it enough. It's definitely got something in there, some kind of traditional aromatic in there, whether it's Perique or Orientals or something which is giving it some aromatics. I haven't yet got my head around it, but there's definitely something in there. There's something exotic. So can I take that as confirmed that it's not a Royal Yacht? Then at least I can get that out of my equation. Alright, fair enough. Well, I may not be able to name it, but I'll do my best to describe it anyway. Mike, your opinion. So you're saying that I should go for a light honey kind of stain. If I'm going to do something contrasty with a smooth area, would I go with like a light brown so that it lifts it a bit, contrasts somewhat with a light stain? Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But what about for the smooth areas? What undercoat would you say I should use? Well, you mean I could just have a more natural look to it, not necessarily make it into a contrast? Again, light, okay. Alright. Well, you guys can hang around, or I've got to go over there to do a bit of work on the mop. I won't be long though. You can either wait or I can stop. What do you want to do? Should I leave it on? I'll be back soon to do the staining. I mean, I could just leave it, you know, I could just leave it natural, spend more time smoothing it out. But it's this area here, which I went on pipes that I've left natural completely and left a smooth area. This area here very quickly doesn't look really, it takes on a bit of a grey look to it. So I do want to do something with this smooth. Anyway, let me get this stem sorted. Don't know if you're going to be able to see anything. No, I'm just going to leave you there for a minute and then we'll come back. I'll still see your comments. I'll take the other phone with me. Right. Still got the chuck on it. Alright, I've changed to the back. Maybe I can put you up here and you can see what's happening. Feel a bit bad for you guys to see what's going on. Hopefully the microphone will be able to pick me up. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hi, David. So although I use the mop, I used to use in the beginning, I used to use the mop to really get a finish, almost the last finish. But that can clog up the pores of the briar. Now I just use it to get rid of any sort of difficult to move sort of hairline scratches that might have been on there. But then I sand it again with a high grit to open it up again for staining. Well, we'll see when it's finished, guys. Yeah, I'm just not sure if it's going to have the same kind of impact. I mean, if I left it this color but that dark, then yes. You know, I could go a little bit darker to give it a bit of a golden hue. That's what I think, and then do that a dark color. It doesn't have to be black, it could be a darker brown. I think that would look really nice. But if I do the whole thing light, personally I think it might lose a bit of impact. I don't know, but I'll do what you said. I'll start off light first and then we'll see from there. CSC Smokes, thanks for joining. Right, I'm going to go up to 800 on the smooth. It's not such a big area, so I don't mind having another crack at a higher grit. I don't want to sand the stem again, but I've got to be careful not to reduce the aperture, the diameter of that edge, otherwise the transition is not going to be smooth. Thank you, Mike. That's very, very nice of you to say. Appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you. It means an awful lot. Thank you, Jordan. Seriously? Nah. I'll have to make some more, Mike. It'll dry lighter than this, don't worry. I think I'll just send it to you, Mike. Well, as Mike said, we can start off lighter and see how it looks. We can always darken. I mean, this stain, this chestnut stain, it dries very quickly. I can wipe this now with a rag and I could polish it almost within a minute or two, and it actually looks really very good. But I would like to bring out the grain, that's all. Kind of just to make it pop and do it justice for the occasion. Yeah, that's why I'm doing it really slowly on the rim, because if I put too much in, it's going to absorb right down into the bowl, which is Just makes it look untidy. Although I want it to be light, I've got to do at least a couple of layers so that the stain actually lasts. So I'm thinking, as I'm doing this, what might be worth doing is letting this sit and absorb, and then take the sandpaper to it again, to the smooth areas, and then so you'll have this colour absorbed into the softer areas, and then stain it even lighter to give it that contrast. I don't know if that's what you were trying to say, Mike, but that could work. You can see the grain there coming through the rays. I love that dual tone staining that you get on some pipes. The rustication that I got has got that. Well, I guess it's the same principle, let it soak overnight with a darker undercoat. Fritz Becker. Never heard of him, but I'll take that as a huge compliment. That's looking gorgeous. That rim is looking lovely. Okay, I think I'm going to leave this here because I know if I fiddle with it, I'm going to do something stupid. So I'm going to leave this here to dry. I'm also going to, once this is done, I'm going to probably put a protective layer over the rusticated areas, especially on the top, just so that it doesn't get charred too quickly, and then sand back this once it's had a chance to absorb, and then perhaps do a lighter stain. I'm just trying to see what I've got in terms of a lighter stain. Golden oak, what's this one? Light mahogany. That's one of my lightest ones. Have a look in my drawer, see what I've got here. I've got some of these. There's a different sample set which I've got. So there's one here called Honey. So what I'll do is maybe I'll try that. But I think it's actually probably quite a similar colour to what I've already got. That's the colour there, this edge. It's quite dark. It might even be darker than the colour we've got on there now. Yeah, it is a bit orangey. I don't think I've got any pure alcohol. I've never actually used it. People have sort of mentioned alcohol to me, you know, to lift the grain and stuff like that. So far, I've not used that. I think Phil Rivara mentioned that to me a couple of times already. He gave it a name, a certain type of alcohol, not sanitized, but something like that. You know what I've noticed, which is interesting, when I'm working on intricate areas of the pipe, and when I'm sanding on the sanding wheel as well, I grind my teeth out of tenseness, and whenever I finish, I end up realizing that my jaw's hurting me, and I don't understand why. And then I realize because I've been clenching my teeth, and that's what I've got now. When I was doing this, I was clenching my teeth. Isopropyl I might actually have. See, I could quite happily put this on the mop, polish this up, and it will polish up very nicely. There is some grain there, there is some nice grain. I just can't help thinking that it would look nice with a contrast grain over there and over there. The only issue with it is that when you stick it on the mop, the dust gets in all of these crevices, so which means I might have to restain that. Chew gum, that's an idea. I'm not a gum kind of person. I hate it when my kids chew gum, but there you go. Oh, I need to bend the stem. I haven't done that yet. All right. Well, I guess we can bend the stem. Just going to get my container of water ready. Yeah, Josh, I might well do that. We'll see how it goes once it's dried. I'll have a look at it in an hour or two, and then if not, I'll stain it again and leave it overnight. We'll see. Depends what I do with the smooth. Because the rusticated area I don't really need to leave overnight really. Just gonna get a feel for the bend on this. It's not a drastic bend. Yeah, I've seen people do it with water, with a flame, with a naked flame, heat gun. This seems to work okay for me. But hot water is probably a good idea because you can get a little sort of rippling on the surface from the heat. So you have to be careful to do it really gradually. Quite a gradual bend. Maybe wants a little bit more, I'm not sure. It might want a fraction more. Yeah, you reckon it's perfect? That's comfortable. All right. Yep, I thought so myself, to be honest. It's only a tiny drop there. I don't know if you can see that any more. If that looks any better. It's actually, I think it's quite similar to how it was. It just needed a fraction. I think it is a fraction more bent, just a fraction. If Savinelli took as long as I did overtaking and making a pipe, they'd go out of business pretty sharpish. I'm going to have to sand this down a bit. There is still a little bit of a difference there. Need to perfect that. But overall, there it is. I think I probably will want to do this, give it a little bit of a contrast stain. And I'm not really liking the way it's looking in terms of colour and stain. But I'm going to go medium brown, not dark brown. In any event, I've got to sand it down. I've got to sand this junction here a bit. So I don't know if you guys want to hang around, but we can hang around if you want. I'll keep at it until the wife comes to get me. Well, the colour looks dull now because it's not polished. I can, I'll give it a quick blast and just get an idea of what it looks like. This thing is a pain in the neck. So you've already got a nice, it looks pretty good. I mean, this is your run-of-the-mill factory kind of finish where there's no major contrast, and whatever grain pops through like there, which is pretty nice. But over time that will dull quite a bit. But a contrast, then you can see there's a little bit of a height difference, a thickness difference there, which I need to sand out. But there, you can see that it needs something to make it special. You know, you can see all the hair on the mop gone in there, but that I can hoover out most of that, brush it out if necessary. I mean, there is some really tight bird's eye in there, really small, which you know, that will pop with a bit of a darker stain, I think. I mean, this isn't bad, but it's just nothing special in terms of a finish, I think. A nylon brush? No, I don't have a nylon brush. I mean, I can get a hairbrush or something like that, but no. What do I have? No, I've got wire brushes and I've got little paint brushes somewhere. Just something like that, but I don't think that's going to get rid of the hair. I mean, the dust from the polish has gone in there as well now. Where's my other brush? Yeah, I hear that, Josh. I was thinking that. I think it makes sense what you're saying, because this would contrast very well with a dark brown rustication. What it needs is a shine. As much as I like a natural finish, I think the rustication needs to be shiny. So, and then that just looks, it just doesn't look well finished. That's very kind. I don't know what it is actually, what you're saying, but I'm assuming it's something which is abrasive enough to get rid of the rubbish in there, but without ruining the pipe. I assume that's what you're talking about. So I think I'm going to go with a darker brown, and then I still like the idea of getting a little bit of a contrast going on the smooth, but you might be right today. It might be enough of a contrast there. But I do have to get this thickness right first, so I'm going to have to sand. Nothing I can do about it. Yeah, I will cover this effectively with a varnish, and that will all shine, and up there as well. That will all shine, but it'll be the colours that contrast rather than the texture. I mean, there'll obviously be a textural contrast as well, but it will be shiny, which it needs to be. It just doesn't look right like this to my eye. Yeah, it will be all over. It'll be inside the crevices. I'll give it probably 3 or 4 layers, and that will come up really nice and shiny. If you see something like this, it'll be like that kind of idea. So there you've got, although the stain is the same, but you could see that shines up really nice. Okay, it's been sanded down as well. That's been really deeply rusticated and then sanded to give smooth edges. Right, so this is kind of a little bit going to get undone because I've got to sand it. But there we go. Right, I'm going to let you guys stay live. I'm going in to get a coffee because I'm starting to get cold. So up to you if you want to hang around. Oh, flippin' heck. My earpiece just dropped into my coffee. There we go. Cream and sugar. Naughty boy. We have some coffee, a homemade biscuit my daughter's just made. Very good. Or cookie, I should say. Right. Minus the earbuds, yeah. Excuse me. Hey Andrew, how you doing? Just having a little coffee break. Let's make some space. Right, back to sanding, I'm afraid. Mr. Eximba, I can ask you the same question. the nectar of the gods. Right. Believe it or not, I've not had a pipe yet this morning. Mine is inside. Whew. Like I said, I could be lazy and put this on the wheel, but I'm scared that I'll lose the circular shape if I do that. You can really only do this on the lathe. Hey Tim, bit late to the game, Tim. -1, whoa. We're getting there. God, Jordan, I don't know how you cope with it, man. I don't know how you cope with the Canadian weather. I honestly don't. I remember when I first started watching Ben, the old soul. Don't see much of him these days. Hope things are going alright with his mum, but when I first started watching him, I remember his videos were the marker for the changing seasons, because you guys always got the winter first, always got the snow the first, and that was always the marker. Well, he took his channel down completely? Really? Oh, no content. I wonder why. Never mind. Gotta do what you gotta do. See, you can see that tiny drop of shiny briar until that smooths off, because I'm holding the sanding block horizontal so that we end up, so it's actually slightly raised above the briar because this is raised. Once that sands out that smooth bit, that shiny bit, then I'll know that I'm getting there. We're almost there. I mean, I can feel it anyway, but thank you, Goat Man. All right, that's feeling pretty good. Yeah, this is the tribute pipe. All being well, that it works out well enough to be that pipe, but yeah, that is the intention. You guys know my channel. I get regular thumbs downs all the time, and I know that I've got at least another 2 regulars that I'm going to have now. I've had a bit of an altercation with somebody, I'm not going to mention who, about them not receiving their gift, their dues. Somebody that sent me some tobacco a while back. A person who has had tobacco and a pipe from me in the past, mark you, as part of a giveaway or whatever it was, I don't remember at the time. Anyway, they sent me tobacco, and I guess they were expecting to get a pipe in return. Of course, now that I'm a pipe maker, I've got to give everybody a pipe, right? And anyway, so he was picking me up on almost, I wouldn't say every video, but his remarks were getting more and more snide over the last couple of weeks. And the last remark, I guess he didn't have the patience, and he simply said, well, what about all the people that you haven't reciprocated? People who have spent money on you and you haven't reciprocated. And I said, oh right, here we go, and there it is. You know, I actually recorded a whole video about it, but I decided it's too childish to even justify it. If you're sending people gifts because of what you think you're going to get back, just don't bother. So that's going to be another thumbs down on a regular basis. My problem is that I do invite a little bit of criticism, because I do speak straight sometimes, And I called out another guy in the past on a competition that he had done. I mean, I did it in private, I didn't do it in public. I sent him a message, you know, because it was quite obvious that the whole thing was rigged. And I said so to him. And so since then, again, the snide remarks and the regular thumbs downs, regardless of the content. Yeah, I think that, hi Newton, people like matches, for instance. I can't imagine that they would even bother taking notice of the ups and downs. It's not possible. You know, people, the so-called influencers, who've got hundreds of thousands or even millions of followers, I can't imagine they even look at unless they're completely obsessed with their own image, which I guess they will be, I suppose. But the ups and down thumbs I've never really been bothered by at all. What, to remove the thumbs ups and downs? Yeah, that's not a bad idea actually. Can you select which things are shown and which things aren't? Right. But you can select each individual thing. I know I haven't got, for instance, anything personal, or my subscriptions are not visible to the public. I'm saying ups and downs as a single thing, I get that obviously, yeah. But I'm saying as opposed to other features, like views and that kind of thing. Good one, Newton. You know, subscription count, views on each video, that kind of thing. Can you select, or do you have to turn all features off? I assume you could select. Yeah, Andrew, I've definitely seen a marked improvement in the full Virginia flake when dried out. Not sure I would do overnight, but you know, if that works, that's great. The thing to do there, Mike, is to load your bowl, Andrew rather, is to load your bowl and then just do a cup over the top of the bowl like that and breathe, and it'll rehydrate it enough to improve the smoke, so that it's not tinder dry. I mean, you can do that in a plate as well, but it just works because it's in a confined space in the bowl. Yeah, that's what they say. Any publicity is good publicity, good or bad. Which we saw last night. Won't get into that. Cool, send them over. Nice one, Newton. Look, the vast majority of the time, if they would interact, they probably wouldn't hate and they probably wouldn't thumbs down. It's just people who are sad, they've got nothing else to do, they're unhappy with their own existence, and that's really what it is. They're not happy seeing other people, you know, having a life. That's the bottom line. Yeah, that's it, Hollywood, 100%. I can feel the line, but it's pretty smooth. No, it's still a little bit there. I have to carry on. No, exactly, Andrew. You could get people giving you positive comments and still thumbs downing. You know, that's even worse. Hypocritical people. Yeah, you're probably right, Jordan. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Just a question, actually. You guys, do you prefer pipes with adornments or without adornments? Just a quick poll. I noticed that the vast majority of high graders, well, I don't know if it's vast majority, but certainly a lot of the high graders don't. Danish ones mostly don't use silver and things like that. Although S-Bangs did. I must admit, Stanwell do it very well. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time. It's 400, 600. Where's my 400? Yeah, that does work very well, Andrew. Silver on black. That does work well. Well, Northern Briars, he's in the vast majority of his bands are just simply sheet silver, very, very thin. He solders it together. There's a video of him doing it. You can see him doing it. I think it's Four Rivers or something like that. He's done a recording. Or River Rat, I can't remember. But he's got a great video out there. And it shows how he does it from beginning to end. 3 rivers right. Well, it would look like a new pipe. You've got about 60% of it being new. I think we don't give enough credit to people who cut stems. The stem, for me, is really the hardest part of making a pipe. Well, most time consuming and what feels like a chore of making any pipe, I think. Yeah, that's the advantage of it having being broken in. Yeah, that's awesome. You know, if you buy estate pipes, you can get really lucky. This was one such example. You get some estate pipes where they're broken in perfectly with a basic Virginia tobacco, and you just got a winner. I got a, you know, the Savinelli autograph, the one with the deep ring grain that I've got. That one came through like a blank canvas but broken in, and it was fantastic, and it still is fantastic. Smokes fantastically, and it's a beautiful pipe to look at. So that's where we're at now. I'm going to sand this back now again, and I'm going to restain. And I've got to be really careful now not to affect the size of that end of the shank face. Well, Newton, at least it's getting smoked, or it got smoked, literally. But if you got the holes in the right place, you could still smoke it, you know. You can always continue fiddling with it until you get a shape that you're happy with. You got to be quick off the mark on a Sunday morning, Josh. I was half expecting Chad to pop in there with a quick joke, with a one-liner. But now he's busy populating BRTV. Good for him, congrats to him. Yeah, that's what I was asking as well, Andrew, when I did that diamond shank. Jordan did a video on doing it, which I should really watch again. But the last one I did, it actually sold. The pipe sold, but it was really very poor. It wasn't equilateral in any way at all. The sides, and it was a very poor attempt, really. I mean, the bowl was fine. But the shank was dross. Triangle, yeah, but diamond is a bit different. Okie dokie. Right, medium brown. Getting so old I can't see stuff when it's right in front of me. It drives me mad. Licorice pipes, yeah. I've had their licorice pipes. I've got one sitting in my drawer, but it's not kosher, so I can't eat it. Somebody will get it in their package one day. I might have even sent it already, I don't remember. Alright, here goes, dark brown. This is a really nice, rich, dark colour. This will work very well. Is it like a chocolatey colour? Oh yeah. That will be banging. Now we're talking. This is, and then sanding back the smooth areas, getting some contrast going, and that's going to be awesome. Banging mush. Ooh, this smells gorgeous. Ooh, get high on that. My wife likes the smell of petrol. This is a real rich wood, like a mahogany kind of colour. You know what I find really frustrating when you go to a hardware store, one of these big super warehouse kind of stores like B&Q, that kind of thing, and you look at the colour charts, you take it home, looks nothing like the colour on the label. Does my head in. Oh no, not diesel, please, Josh. I know you're weird, but you're not that weird. Come on. No wonder you're grumpy. Bripe. Hi, Carl. I've got to say, the highlight of the pipe for me is this rim. It just works. It's so... You've got this slight sort of top edge of the smooth just touching the top rim, so it's got like a smooth rim to the rusticated area. It just looks great. That's a good idea, Josh. Might just do that, you never know. Might put in a silent bid. I'm definitely going to give that option when I do the auction, is to have the option for people to bid silently. So by email or by Instagram or Messenger, just something so that, you know, people don't necessarily want to know who's paying what. So definitely we'll have some kind of option like that. Definitely going to be live, Andrew, because I think that it's I want it to be an interactive thing, which I think that people feel involved in. I think if I do it on eBay or something like that, it completely removes the whole memorial aspect of it. And I think it would be really nice for people to just to get in on, even if they're not bidding, just to, you know, talk about John, reminisce, and at the same time raise some funds. It's not just about the money, although that's the aim, is to get as much as possible. But I think it's just to be a memorial. There needs to be some memorialization, if you like, going on. And eBay is just completely dead idea, really. It's just a completely passive kind of situation. Now that is a stain. This is freaking gorgeous. You won't hear me say that often. I might well have to bid on this. Josh, you might have said something there which is actually going to be reality. You never know. I will have to ask Phil at Briar TV to make a fuss about this in advance, so that enough people get to know about it. And if people talk about it on their channels, I'd really be grateful. All of you guys, if you don't mind. Mike, Andrew, all of you. Yeah, it is 9mm. If Matches were alive, I'd get him to put it on his channel. He wouldn't get more exposure than that. Come to think of it, an idea is hatching in my mind. A bit crazy, but maybe I'm going to ask his daughter if we can somehow put a video out on his channel. That would be amazing. It'd be a bit shocking at first, a bit freaky, back from the dead kind of thing, but I actually think that would be a very, very cool idea. That would be nuts. Right, I think we've got enough stain on here. George Bruno. No, I don't think George Bruno. He doesn't represent the YTPC. Yeah, absolutely Hollywood. You know, the idea of this is not just the pounds, shillings and pence. It's got to feel YTPC. Like I said, the ideal person would have been Matches to do it. I don't know who's next. Maybe Mutton Chop Piper. Behave yourself, Simon. Anybody seen him? Hair or hide? Since demonetization? Anyone? I guess he's too busy setting up his computer. It's only been about 6 months. Alright, behave yourself, Simon. Stop it. Be a good boy. Better leave George Bruno out of this, okay. Yeah, I have no intentions of asking him. I mean, I don't know the guy. I see his posts every so often. I don't think I'm subscribed to him because I wouldn't generally take a relationship advice or how to be a man off the internet, to be honest. And all of these kind of people who try to preach about how to be a man, just have a look at how many of them are divorced or have been divorced more than once or married more than once, living on their own. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. For them it might have been the right thing, but these are people who are supposedly giving you advice on how to be married and how to be a good husband, how to be a good man, how to be a man's man. Let's just see how well they've done at it themselves. An interesting brown, wouldn't you say? This is more like a maroon. But I'm loving it. It's a very rich, it's like a chestnut, excuse me, you know, a fresh chestnut off the tree with a peel on? That kind of colour. Alright then, Mike, I won't be asking you. I honestly don't know, Mike. Have you been married before? Where are you up to? You don't have to answer that. Alright, so the pipes on the peg, that's going to stay there probably till tomorrow, but at least 12 hours. I find 12 hours is usually enough from my experience. 24 hours is probably better. 3 times, oh my gosh, practice makes perfect, eh Mike? Hopeless romantic or a glutton for punishment. Hopeless romantic, well, depends on the other half, I guess. Alright, should I have my first blast of BB12? How about that? Is that okay, Mike, if we do that a little bit live? I mean, I'll do a video once I've done a few bowls of it. Okay, the first thing I get from this aroma-wise, which I said earlier on, it's got a very distinct mustiness to it. It's got a distinct sort of mulchy, sort of rotting forest floor kind of smell to it. So I'm not sure whether that's, it could be a certain type of Perique, or it could be Orientals. I would say my initial instinct would be Orientals, but it could just be a certain, it could be just different strands or strains of Virginia. To look at it, as I said earlier on, I thought it would be something like Dunhill, Elizabethan, that kind of idea, but it doesn't smell like it, to be honest. It's got a certain earthiness and earthy mustiness to it, which just leads me away from that, but you never know. That aroma, which I can't quite place, it's kind of an English kind of, with a capital E, not English as in what people call English nowadays, as in Latakia blends or Balkan blends. It's got that English quality to it in terms of that purity. There's like no pretentiousness about it. There's no trying to be aromatic. There's no trying to make it smell like roses, if you know what I mean, if that makes any sense. Thanks, Paul. It's like molasses, but at the same time, as I said, that molding kind of foliage. Okay. Hi Paul, thanks very much. I'll get to that email a bit later. Thank you. So lots of different shades of brown, but essentially brown. Some darker browns there as well. So we've got some brighter Virginias. In terms of just looking at the stuff, I would hesitate to say that perhaps there is some Perique in there. I'm looking for that grey-brown kind of telltale, what Perique often looks like, but possibly there is some Perique in there. And some of those browns could be Orientals. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. Let's smoke it. Hey Joshua, how you doing? So we've just done the base stain on the 673KS tribute pipe, and it's looking really good, and we'll probably end up finishing it off tomorrow sometime. And now we're taking a little sampling of Mike's Briar Blues Challenge number 12. It'll be quite impressive. It's flipping impressive. So straight off, there's a certain sweetness. Retrohale is wonderful. At this stage, this could quite easily be Elizabethan. Also, if it wasn't for the cut, for the ribbon cut, I could also taste some Deception Pass in here, but it's not. It's obviously not the same tobacco. Doesn't look like that. By Seattle Pipe Club. It's got that real tangy, rich, musty kind of, and it pinches. If that makes any sense, I've tried to describe this sensation in the past. When you have the flavors snap into focus with like a slight pinch, and that's what. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody. I might be sounding stupid, but some tobaccos I find that when you're retrohale and regular inhale, not inhale, but when you draw, there's a certain point, a focal point, where it all snaps together and you get the overall flavor profile. Some tobaccos, you'll get the taste in the mouth, you'll get the taste in the nose, and you just enjoy them both. But some tobaccos, it just all melds and it comes together, and you need to have the mouthfeel and the retrohale, and kind of it all snaps into place in your sort of taste sensory, whatever the word is, in your brain, and it kind of just snaps into focus. And with this one, it kind of all just comes to a point, and it really does snap into focus with a really nice, musty, tangy, a little bit of a fruity, but not much, and also that earthiness. Good thick smoke, creamy smoke. Whoa, whew. We're getting into Andrew Sirigliano territory here. The retrohale is spicy, just as you get beyond the first few draws. Oh wow, that is fiery stuff. Which rabbit hutch did you raid this time? Jeez. It's overpowering. It's a great flavour, but it's just too much. Andrew. It's too strong for Elizabethan. Much too strong. Either that or it's Elizabethan and he's poured some dynamite into it or something. Gunpowder. Or some of his moustache shavings, perhaps. You know what they say about Carlsberg? It reaches other parts that other beers don't reach. Well, this tobacco reached some parts I didn't even know I had. Whew. This is fiery stuff. I guess, Andrew, that you enjoyed it, I'm assuming. It definitely hit my G-spot. I'm gender fluid, guys. You know me. You've heard my videos. Wood Spirit 100, how you doing? You do know how to pick him, I'll give you that, Mike. I must sip some coffee. No, go for it, Andrew. I've got about 10 minutes left and then I have to go. I've got to pick up my daughter, so Just going to enjoy this for a few minutes. Right, that was my 10-minute warning. So, you get any Italian dark fired? I don't know, because I'm not familiar with Italian dark fired. That's the short, honest answer. If it's anything like the those cigars, what I'm getting is, I'm not getting that Kentucky smoky kind of flavors. I'm getting I'm just getting searing chili heat is what I'm getting. Joshua, this apron, I actually had it made. I had it made by a lady here in the UK. It was made to my specification. I ordered it exactly as it is. On reflection, I'd probably change a couple of bits of it. This bit here in the middle is very saggy, but I suppose there's no way she could have got that 100% without doing it on me. But and I would rearrange the pockets. But it's a fantastic apron. It's a beautiful piece of leather. The standard aprons that you can buy, they're all too short. They don't wrap around. So when you're sanding, you know, unless you get changed, which I have done today, I'm basically wearing some like pajama trousers. But generally speaking, dust obviously gets everywhere. Now that I've got the let me show it to you actually. You guys want to see the extractor? So that's at the moment it's a rudimentary setup. I do have to make some kind of housing and all that kind of stuff once I'm sort of set on how my sanders setup is going to be. But that works really well. Very happy with that. And the actual thing itself is a bit of a large thing that's hanging up there. And there you go. And it does work very well. Oh, Carl, I don't like the sound of that. If you're getting 2 molars extracted, you'll need to stay off smoking for a good couple of weeks, I reckon. On the relight, it's not so hot. On the relight, it's more fruitiness coming through. I'm going to try sipping it for a couple of minutes to see how that goes. Definitely a lot easier when you sip it. More fruitiness coming through. Still got that tang, it's still got that snappy richness there. I'm starting to detect a tiny amount of burley. A little bit of that dusty flavour coming through. I don't know if it's actually burley or just the general flavour, but I'm getting certainly a little bit of that coming through, but it's not staying there. Yeah, absolutely, Carl. 72 hours doesn't sound like much if you're having two out, to be honest. This is actually starting to taste a little bit like some of the German HU tobaccos. Kitchen sink stuff. They got a lot of stuff in, a lot of different tobaccos in their blends. But at the same time, companies like Samuel Gareth Hogarth, they can get a lot of flavours into a tobacco with very minimal ingredients. How they do it, I don't know, but they do. So this could just as easily be one of their sort of stronger tobaccos, with something like a Malawian or one of these kind of African tobaccos in there, you know, dark fired or something like that, which to give it that spiciness quite easily. What's magic there, Mike? It's interesting. The flavors keep flitting in and out. Yeah, absolutely, Mike. 100%. I don't know how, but they do. Definitely getting some burley. Matches is getting involved here. It better not be Haunted Bookshop, Mike. Seriously. Because I officially don't like Haunted Bookshop, so I don't want to like it. Just kidding. If it is, I'll eat my hat. And Jewish hats are not easy to eat. Joshua, Mike at Briar Blues, there's a group of us who he sends a mystery tobacco to every few weeks. And we have to try and just describe it. If we can guess it, all well and good, but otherwise just describe it, talk about it as you're smoking it, and try to, you know, describe which tobaccos might be in it. You know, I know it's not Haunted Bookshop. In terms of the fiery heat, I did get something similar from some of the Manil tobaccos, but the Manil tobaccos look really like Rabbit Hutch stuff, and this looks a bit better than that, I must be honest. Well, there's no tools as such, Paul. It's a matter of, when you say blending, it's just a matter of mixing different ingredients together. No real tools for it, unless you're going to start spraying aromatics and that kind of thing. But you can buy base tobaccos, sure. But in terms of trying to make blends up with different flavors, you'd really need access to tobaccos from around the world. If you look at some of the New World cigars, we touched on it the other night. To get all the different flavors, you have to really be able to blend tobaccos from different climates, from different earth sort of qualities, to get those flavors, as long as you want to keep it pure, as long as you want it to be an English blend, in other words, with no aromatics. So to get that variety of flavor, you've got to be able to source lots of different strands of Tobacco leaves. Burning through at a fair rate. Very rich smoke, I can say that. Very thick, creamy smoke. And it's really settling into a burley blend for me at the moment. but it's got enough of everything else in there to make it palatable. That burning chili heat is definitely subdued a little. Reveal on Friday, looking forward. Knowing you, it's probably a standard blend which everybody's got out there, but how it's so fiery, I don't know. Cheers, Paul. Who's actually put their videos up so far on this blend? Has Old Dirty done the Old Dirty yet with this? So who have we got? We've got Andrew, Mel, myself, John. Who else? Is it Chad? What about Chad? Has he done it? Isn't he on the group now? Or is he on the other BRTV one? Waiting for Chad, right? I'm just going to show this now before I go. Got a really good undercoat. I think this is going to look fan-tastic once we take off that coat, that top coat. There we go. It's a blend he really likes. Ooh, that's a clue. Old Joe Krantz springs to mind. I am getting a bit of a nick hit, I must be honest. I'll tell you what, if it is something like that, like Old Joe Krantz, I'll be pleasantly surprised. Honestly, I will. I've never tried it, but the burley in it is not that heavy. I don't know what's giving it that really fiery heat, but the Virginias are nice. I don't get a really grassy Virginia. It's kind of a melding of flavors, the Virginia. It's like that base flavor, like a universal Virginia flavor. But the burley really comes in halfway down the bowl, and it's really a supplement, it's a condiment. I thought Old Joe Krantz or something like that is a much stronger, more fuller, burley based blend. So maybe it's not that, obviously, we don't know. But if it's something like that, I'll be pleasantly surprised. Anyway, people, I've got to go. I've got to pick up my little princess. It's not Old Joe. Okay, fine. I wouldn't know because I've never tasted it, so I don't know. So thanks everybody. Thanks Andrew, Tim. Sorry you're at the tail end, Tim. Mike, Paul, Wood Spirit, Joshua. Thanks for joining me again. It's really a pleasure to have you on board. Matthew Rowe, Paul, Carl, and everybody else. Thanks very much for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And I may try this in a meerschaum tonight when I've got a job tonight, an engagement party. So I may be back on around 9-10 o'clock. I might even take the top coat off, depending. We'll see. So yeah, I might see you guys later on. Have a great day. Thanks very much, and I will catch you on the next one.